And so now we know that what Dumbledore meant by correspondence were the letters Petunia wrote in her childhood. Hello friends, welcome to my channel where we talk about facts, theories, and opinions related to the wizarding world of Harry Potter. If you're a Potterhead like me, I would consider subscribing, but if not, that's cool too. My name is Fatma, and this is episode 1 in the mini series where we look at the memories of Severus Snape left to Harry Potter. Let's get into it. A gifted legilimens who was able to hide his true feelings from Lord Voldemort himself, Severus Snape chose to show his inner, most precious memories to his least favorite student, Harry Potter. We would be remiss in thinking that these were not carefully selected, curated memories, even if he was leaving them to Harry while he lay there bleeding to death. Today, we take a look at the first 3 of these memories. These 3 memories involve a young, pre-Hogwarts age Snape and Lily, and to everyone's surprise, they also include Lily's elder sister, Petunia. Now, let's start with some background. Severus Snape is famously a half-blood, born to Muggle father Tobias Snape and witch mother Eileen Prince.
My dad's a muggle. Mum's a witch.
Hence the nickname Half-Blood Prince. Now, Snape grew up in a mostly Muggle neighborhood, given that his father was a Muggle. And it is in this neighborhood where he began to observe an underage Muggle-born witch, Lily Evans. In this first memory, we see Lily and Petunia playing in a deserted playground on swings, and Snape is kind of watching hidden away behind some bushes, and we see Lily showing some pretty obvious signs of magic. First, she jumps off the swing at the highest point, and instead of falling flat like a non magic person would, she glides through the air and lands very gently onto the ground. We can tell that she has done this before because Petunia is very quick to tell her that she wasn't supposed to do this anymore since their mother had told her not to. Next thing we know, Lily picks up a flower and is making the petals open and close. We see this in the movies as well. And once again, Petunia screams for Lily to stop. But then, out of curiosity, jealousy, or interest, we don't know, but Petunia asks Lily, "How are you doing all these things?" At this point, the playground is deserted except for the 3 children, Lily, Petunia, and Snape. So, on Petunia's question, Snape kind of sees that as his in, so he walks out from behind the bushes and tells Lily that she is a witch. It is very clear that young Snape had been planning this moment for a while, and in his mind, he had hoped for this to be this magical moment where he reveals this great truth to Lily about herself.
You're a wizard, Harry.
However, instead of being elated at the news, Lily, who has no context at this point, thinks Snape is being rather rude.
How rude!
Snape tries to do some damage control. He tries to explain that he's a wizard, his mom's a witch, but Petunia is having none of it. She immediately tries to shut him down by calling him out for spying on them, and then she belittles him for the way he looks and his neighborhood. So, this first meeting at this point is not going as well as Snape had hoped. Instead of it being this amazing moment where he reveals to Lily the truth about her having all this magic, it ends up with him being kind of put on the defensive with Petunia. He responds rather rudely himself. I mean, he calls her a muggle, but in a rude way.
How rude!
So his first impression on Lily is not so great. He is a strange boy who is being rather rude to her sister and saying things to her even she perceives initially as being rude. So the memory ends with the 2 girls walking away, leaving behind Snape feeling rather sad about this first encounter he had been hoping to have for a while. Now, before we move to the next memory, there are a few things we can note from this first memory about Lily, Petunia, and Snape. It is clear that Lily does not only have a lot of magic, but that she is aware to some extent about this inexplicable ability and she's controlling it. She can make things happen on purpose, like with the flower. And if we compare this to Harry, he was only able to make things happen on accident. And his surroundings did not allow for him to explore anything further or ask any sort of questions. Whereas with Lily, she grew up with loving, nurturing parents, so she wasn't really suppressing any part of herself, even with Petunia's constant censures. And let's talk about the contrast between the two girls. At Snape's first appearance, Petunia runs away in fear, while Lily seems unfazed by the sudden appearance of a strange boy and is more interested in what he has to say rather than his appearance. I wish I could say that we saw a protective elder sister instinct in Petunia in this instance. However, that's not the case because she didn't really grab Lily's hand to take her with her or call her away, but she just stood there watching them. And once Petunia realized who Snape was, she was familiar with who he was, she immediately comes back and rips him apart for his appearance, for his neighborhood, Spinner's End, and calls him out for spying on them. In stark contrast, Lily was not unkind to Snape the way her sister was, nor did she seem put off by the way he was dressed, his neighborhood, or his overall demeanor. She was offended, though, by his rude tone towards her sister.
That's mean, Severus.
Now, coming to Snape. When we first see him, there are clear signs that he is living a neglectful, if not abusive, childhood. His clothes are very off, he is thin, his skin lacks a healthy color, and he is overall not as well groomed as a young boy his age should be. He also already seems to have a negative opinion about muggles. This could be because he dislikes his own abusive muggle father, or perhaps he's met his pureblood relatives on his mother's side, and that's where he's getting this opinion from. Either way, it is clear he does not have high opinion on muggles, and it is clear that he is hungry for friends, specifically magically abled friends in an otherwise completely muggle neighborhood. Hence his initial obsession with Lily. Now, I do want to talk about Petunia mentioning Snape's neighborhood called Spinner's End, apparently a more dusty part of where they lived. We see Snape's home at Spinner's End in the beginning of Harry Potter and the Half Blood Prince when Bellatrix and Narcissa come to pay him a visit to invoke the unforgivable vow which would seal his fate to kill Albus Dumbledore or die. In the books, Bellatrix even comments, he lives here, in this muggle dunghill. We must be the first of our kind to ever set foot here. Now, given what we know about Snape's abusive upbringing, it is shocking that he would choose to live in his father's home as an adult. Could you imagine Harry ever deciding to move back to number 4 Privet Drive after what the Dursleys put him through throughout his childhood? Or just think of the absolute misery of Sirius when he had to move back to Grimmauld Place, his abusive parents' home, when they needed a headquarters for the Order of the Phoenix. So, why would Snape choose to live in his childhood home where he suffered abuse? Could it be that his troubled childhood memories were overshadowed by the memories of summers spent with his childhood best friend, Lily Evans? My guess would be that he moved out of his father's home when he came of age and eventually joined the Death Eaters. But perhaps by the time his father died, Lily was already dead, and so he chose to go back and live there because of the memories of Lily linked to that home and that neighborhood. If you're thinking the first meeting between Snape and Lily did not go so smoothly, I wonder how they became friends. We will never know for sure because the next memory that we jump to Snape and Lily are already close friends at this point. We can assume that since Lily was aware of her abilities to some extent, she went back to Snape to have a one on one without Petunia present. Lily, who is not one to judge a book by its cover, would definitely have talked to Snape in detail and seen the softer side of him, which others usually miss. In this next memory, it's just Lily and Snape talking, and Snape seems to have established himself the authority on all things magic. And not wrongly so, because he is able to answer Lily's questions accurately, impressively so for a 10-year-old boy. At first, this seems to be a very random back and forth, but there are some key pieces of information here. First of all, when they're discussing the Hogwarts letter, it comes up that Lily, being Muggle born, her letter would be hand delivered by somebody from Hogwarts, similar to how Harry got his from Hagrid, or how Dumbledore went to get the young Tom Riddle. At this point, Lily asks Snape something that has clearly been bothering her. She wants to know if her magical abilities would be affected by her being Muggle born. So we know that he does put a lot of weight to people being pure blood. But when Lily asks him about this, he hesitates for a moment, but then tells her it makes absolutely no difference to her being Muggle-born. This makes us wonder what could have been had Snape not given in to the external influences of the bias against Muggle-borns and Muggles alike once he got to Hogwarts. Another interesting piece that comes up in the conversation is Lily asking Snape about how things are at his home and how things are between his parents. And we see Snape get honest and vulnerable. We can tell that they have discussed this before, and this exchange shows us that this friendship was not just surface level for Snape, who chose to let Lily in on his troubling home life. Any child who's grown up in abuse or neglect will tell you this, that you make this very conscious decision on who you let in on the troubling parts of your life. Only those who can be trusted get to know this. I would be willing to bet that the friends Snape goes on to make at Slytherin House did not get to know this side of his life. We can therefore be sure that this friendship went deep for Snape and also for Lily because she made the effort to dig deep and check in with how he was dealing with things. Coming back to the memory, Lily asks Snape about Dementors because she seems to be worried that if she does magic outside of Hogwarts, the Dementors would take her away. Snape is very quick to nip this fear in the bud. He explains to her that they're the guards of the prison Azkaban and they don't put people in Azkaban for doing underage magic. This last part seems random for sure until we find out that they are interrupted by Petunia, who has been listening in on the conversation the entire time. Something she never grows out of doing, as she is notably described on the first page of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as having nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on her neighbors. So, this little bit about Dementors is one of my personal favorite Easter eggs because it brings us back to this conversation in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix when Harry and Dudley get attacked by Dementors before Harry's 5th year. And in the scene in the books, Harry is explaining to the Dursleys what exactly happened to him and Dudley.
So you put some crackpot spell on my son so he'd hear voices and believe he was doomed to misery or something, did you?
How many times do I have to tell you? It wasn't me. It was a couple of Dementors.
A couple of? What's this got you all up?
Dementors. 2 of them.
And what the Rudy hell are Dementors?
They guard the wizard prison, Azkaban.
How do you know that?
I heard awful boy telling her about it years ago. Years ago.
If you hate my mom and dad, why don't you say their name?
I don't know about all of you, but I loved Emo Harry. Maybe because book 5 coincided with my own angsty teenage years.
I just feel so angry all the time.
But I got so much secondhand catharsis from all his yelling in Order of the Phoenix. Anyway, back to Petunia. Even a 15-year-old edgy Harry is able to pick up on the fact that his aunt seems to remember key pieces of information about the Wizarding World when she puts up this facade of hating it and pretending like it does not exist. Now, if you're not yet fully convinced of the absolute obsession Petunia harbors for the Wizarding World, let's get into the third memory. This one is a conversation between Lily and Petunia on platform 9 3/4 before Lily's first year at Hogwarts, and Snape is just kind of in the background in this one, listening in on the conversation. The two girls seem to be saying goodbye, but Petunia seems to be in an awful mood. And Lily, in the hopes of kind of trying to cheer her up, is telling Petunia that, hey, I'll go to Hogwarts and I'll try to figure out how I can get you to come. I'll talk to them and convince them to let you come as well. But Petunia's having none of it. She tries to shut Lily down completely by saying that it's a school for freaks and weirdos, and she just wants to get away from them. And that's pretty on brand for the Petunia we, the readers, know. But at this point, Lily calls Petunia out for writing a letter to Albus Dumbledore asking him to let her come to Hogwarts. And what's more is that Dumbledore replied to Petunia explaining to her that it was really not possible for her to come to Hogwarts. Are you all ready for an Easter egg? Because this is another one. Before Harry's 6th year, Dumbledore actually came to pick him up from the Dursleys' home, and when he did that, he also came and met the Dursleys. The movies completely skipped this, and as much fun as the scene from the tube was, this is one of the coolest things that they left out, in my opinion, because we come full circle from Dumbledore dropping Harry off to the Dursleys as a baby to him picking him up 15 years later. This is made so much more significant because Dumbledore knew that he would not be able to pick Harry up the next year when Harry came of age, and the protection that the Dursleys' home gave him would have been lifted at that point because he would be dead by that time. In the book, Dumbledore greets Petunia by saying, "We have corresponded, of course." Harry, along with the reader, thinks back to the letter Dumbledore left with him as a baby, explaining to the Dursleys why they need to take him in. That was 15 years ago at this point, and other than that, there was one howler that Dumbledore sent to Aunt Petunia in Harry's 5th year. But calling that a correspondence seems a bit of an exaggeration. And so now we know that what Dumbledore meant by correspondence were the letters Petunia wrote in her childhood to him asking for her Hogwarts letter. And I think all of us who were waiting for our letters and never got them can, at least in this one moment, feel empathy for Petunia Dursley. Those are words I never thought I would say. Back to the memory. When confronted by Lily about her letter to Hogwarts, Petunia digs in her heels and continues to belittle Lily and Snape for sneaking around in her room and walks away with one final word:
Freak!
So, friends, this brings us to the end of the first 3 memories that Snape left Harry. For me, these were the greatest insights not only into the beginning of the story of Lily and Snape, but also Petunia Dursley's entire life filled with hypocrisy. I wish she had moved on to become a better person, but there is no evidence of that happening in the entire book series. Also, it bothers me so much that Snape did not have more empathy for Harry just knowing that he had to grow up with Petunia, because we now know that Snape knew better than anyone else in the Wizarding world just how awful of a person she could be. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. I would love to hear your thoughts. What did you think of these memories? Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you would want me to make a video on? I would love to hear from all of you in the comments below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye for now.